So I wanted to continue where I left off about a pregnancy number 5. Where I left off was that we were just told that our baby had passed, and I was in my 9 month of pregnancy. I had 3 more weeks to go before I was supposed to give birth to her, and they told us in a separate room. Of course, my husband and I are distraught. We're crying. We're holding each other. I was in denial when I looked at the ultrasound and I didn't see a heartbeat. I've had enough ultrasounds to know when I see one. And, we're obviously upset. And my husband, I feel so bad for him. He had to deal with my feelings, his feelings, and then also reach out to our family, like my mom, my dad, his mom and sister, to let them know what was going on. And we were crying, and I was just like, we named her. Usually we wait till about 8 or 9 months before we name our kids, but this time, when I was in my 4th month of pregnancy, we named her. It was me, my sister-in-law, and my husband. And then we're in the room crying. The doctor comes in. She apologizes, even though it's not her fault. She explains that I'm going to get my C-section at noon. I don't know what time it was at that time. And she's like, it's during COVID, as I mentioned, 2020. And she's like, I'm not supposed to do this. But she came over and gave me a hug. And of course I took it. And of course it made me cry even more. The full circle thing is that her mother is the one who did my emergency C-section for my first child. And now she was going to be doing my C-section for this child. And I told her that, and she was like, oh my goodness. So now you're in the family. And then her and her nurse left. I'm still obviously distraught. And then I go from crying to being angry again. But this time I'm angry at myself, because I'm like, how can you be a mother and not know when your kid is in pain, in trouble, suffering? So I started beating myself up. And then it hit me, and I switched my anger to the doctor, which is where I still believe he deserves the anger, because I started thinking about how I didn't really see him a lot during that pregnancy, how I had asked for an ultrasound, and that 3rd ultrasound I requested never happened, how they never sent me to a specialist knowing what my history was. I felt like, if I had been with my original doctor and I had the correct insurance, like if I hadn't gotten laid off at my job, she would have sent me to a specialist. She would have, what you're supposed to do as a doctor, look at your patient's history, and she probably would have had me, have a C-section at 36 weeks, and my child would have lived. I believe that no one can convince me otherwise. I know the baby would have survived, because she does not play. And so I blamed him, and I was angry. And so we're waiting. 12 o'clock passes. The nurse comes in. She's like, I'm sorry, we had someone come in with an emergency C-section. Of course, I'm pissed again, because I'm like, wait, because my baby isn't alive, I'm not important, so we can wait. But then after I said that, a minute later, I had to check myself, because I'm like, I was that mom having an emergency C-section some time ago with my first child. And of course, I want this mom and her child to survive. So I really, know how important, something had to have happened for her to have this emergency C-section. So of course, it's important for her to go, since her baby was alive. And so we're sitting there. We finally go and have a C-section. I'm numb, because I know that I'm not going to have my child crying once they take her out, even though I'm still praying and hopeful that a miracle can happen. My poor husband, every C-section, he's taking pictures and videos, and he's standing up and he can see over the sheet that they have up. And when they pull her out, he sees everything. He still to this day has not told me what he's seen, because he doesn't want me to have that in my brain, and he knows that I can't handle it. But now that's something he sees himself all the time and he has to deal with. And that's so sad to me. And that's why I say men can be hurt and in pain too, not just the women. Um, Even though I still believe our pain may be more because we carried and we felt the movements and everything, but they hurt just as bad. Um, and they didn't get that time with the child that we have with the movements. They have to wait till the child comes out or put their hand on your belly and all that stuff, which is stuff he did. He would talk to her in my stomach. He would touch my stomach when she kicked him. Um, he would be at my appointments looking at ultrasounds. Like, he he's a great dad, and it was hard for him. So he saw that as she was coming out, she had, and this is about to be TMI, she had a cord wrapped around her neck. And obviously she wasn't moving, it's from what I know. Um, and they did what they could. They wrapped her up and they gave her to me. I got to hold her. My husband got to hold her. And after that, they took her. They brought me to a room, which, by the way, was a small-ass closet. That's how I felt. When you have a child, and I know why they didn't bring me to the usual labor and delivery area, because then I would have heard other babies crying and it would have broke me. But I just lost my child. Why can't you guys have a better room for people who are going through this? So no, I'm stuck into a room that feels like a closet. I've never been claustrophobic, but now I feel claustrophobic. The first night, I slept by myself because my husband had to go home and, talk to the kids and make sure they were okay and make sure they went to school the next day. Actually, no, that week they were on school vacation, so they weren't in school. That's coming back to me now. And so they were home with my father. And so my husband comes home, he has to tell them what happened. And that's another thing he has to deal with. My children being heartbroken and crying, which is exactly what happened from what I was told. My oldest especially, she woke up in the middle of the night bawling, and my husband had to console her because she was the one who told me before I knew that I was pregnant. And she wanted another baby sister. And my middle child, she was broken too. And even now when we celebrate her birthday, my middle child runs upstairs sometimes because she can't or doesn't, it just hurts her. My son's the only one who doesn't get it. He knows that he lost a sister, but he was so young when it happened that it doesn't affect him like it does us. But I'm in the hospital by myself. I'm so pissed. I can't even sleep. So my sister-in-law comes and stays with me the second night and the third night. And she's making sure I'm eating. She's making sure I'm getting sleep. My blood pressure was up. I was still snoring and sleeping, but it wasn't great sleep. And I'm going to save the rest for tomorrow because I'm already at 9 minutes. But thank you guys so much for listening to my story, and I hope I'm helping and not scaring anyone.